Welcome back to Court TV Live. Brian Walshe is a killer. That's what a jury in the state of Massachusetts has determined. He was found guilty of first-degree murder. Let's head back out to Dedham. A press conference from the district attorney's office is on.
Yeah, everybody ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. I'm Michael Morrissey, the Norfolk District Attorney, and with me today, standing behind me, some of the most important people in the event you witnessed over the last few weeks and couple of years. I have members of the Cohasset and State Police, as well as my trial team, are with me today. Did an outstanding job. I would be remiss if I didn't thank the jury. This is a very difficult case from the beginning. Take time out of their schedule to hear such days of evidence, complex evidence, and a difficult case, and to come up with the decision they did. Without the jurors, our system doesn't work, and my heartfelt thanks to each and every one of those who participated and the alternates who were chosen as well. I'd like to thank the Cohasset Police, the State Police, the Medical Examiner's Office, and the Crime Lab for their hard work. It was an incredible effort. If you think about what you saw during the trial, there was all sorts of forensic evidence. They left no stone unturned. They viewed 60 witnesses, almost 60 witnesses testified at trial, and they interviewed even more people. So while you saw a good part of what we had, it was only a small fraction of the time and effort that they put in to get that evidence. And they went to dumpsters, to landfills, to dumps as well, to transfer stations, department stores, lumber stores, CVS, just to gather all this evidence, which was critical in this case. And that effort should not be forgotten, and how hard it was. For without those tools and the evidence that they provided us, that the trial team, which I had the utmost confidence, very confident, professional people, long-term prosecutors in the office, had great tools to work with, but they also great people in their own right. And they put on a very, very great case in a difficult setting. Now, we've seen other cases where we've not had a body, but this is the first one I can remember we've had a first-degree conviction, and I just want to thank them profusely. I know that a number of them passed up vacations, work holidays, and they know what's expected of them. We took the job to speak for victims, and they did one heck of a job speaking for Anna's family. And I just wanted to also to say we did hear from Anna's sister, and her comment was, justice has been served, and we agree wholeheartedly with her comments as well. But they never lost sight of that, and I'd like to just personally thank Greg Connor, Tracy Cusack, Ian Yaz, and we have the Cohasset Police, Harrison, and the State Police, and the head of my victim services, Kristen Collins. Also Laura McLaughlin, who's not here. She did a lot of the early work in the case, and so we had a great team, and I just wanted to profusely thank them. It's been a great day for us in the office. I had asked Greg if he wants to say a word or two.
Thank
Greg
you,
Connor.
Thank you, Michael. Work two of the finest lawyers I've ever got to know, and also to go against very who are extremely good lawyers. But I want to say thank you to our law enforcement, but who worked day after day from the beginning with Sergeant Harrison Schmidt. When Cohasset lost one of their own, they stopped everything and tried to find this woman, and one person never gave up on that case, and it would be Sergeant Harrison Schmidt. Thank you very much.
So let's not lose sight that Anna's 3 young children will be without a mother, and especially at this time, difficult time of year, and hopefully going in the future, that we all wish them a bright future going ahead. But let's remember in a special way the loss they suffered, and thank you all for coming.
What will happen with the children?
I am not going to answer any questions of that. That's for another.
Any more reaction from her mother or her family?
We just heard from the sister. That was the only, so I passed that on. We heard that they called, and I passed that on to you.
Will they be making impact statements?
The judge, they're working with the trial team to schedule impact statements. I can't tell you in what form they're going to come in, but the opportunity has been extended, and I expect we will hear something, and they're working on that now.
Mr. Morrissey, what do you think for sentencing?
Excuse me?
For sentencing?
Well, there's a mandatory sentence of life, so, but there are other issues. They also developed other charges, as many of you have now heard, that there was a plea earlier to other charges, so that's being worked on. So you'll hear from the lawyers at the time of sentencing.
Mr. Morrissey, do you consider this a win after the Karen trial?
What do you think actually
brought this to guilty? You have no body, circumstantial evidence. What do you think was the strongest part of the case that convinced the jury this was guilty?
I don't think there's any one thing. I think it was the combined effort of working together with our law enforcement partners, the ME and other professionals. The work that was done on the forensics, I think, was important. But actually, without that and without people explaining it in the courtroom, we'd have nothing. And I think they all did an awesome job. And I'm just going to say one other thing, because someone mentioned, it's not about winning or losing. It's about getting the right answer. And this was the right answer. And so we don't look at cases as a wins or losses. We look at getting justice for someone. So let's not lose sight of that fact.
Walshe pled guilty to 2 charges ahead of time, right when jury selection was about to start. Did that change the way you approached this case and your attorneys? Obviously, they had been looking at 3 different charges. Now it was 1 murder charge.
You can hear right from the
case was always going to be presented in the same way. The evidence was the evidence, and we wanted to make sure the jury had everything that they needed to make a determination. The change of plea was an interesting dynamic, but when it came down to it, we wanted to make sure the jury had all the facts.
Greg, what do you think it was? The online searches? Do you think it was the surveillance video? What do you think?
Or the emotional testimony?
I can't tell you. That would be a question for the jurors. We tried to give them all the information we had. We had it from multiple different factors, whether it be surveillance video, the text messages, the internet searches. But what we had was a very thorough investigation that gave the lawyers in this case an excellent chance to try and give the jury what they needed.
Were you surprised that he didn't testify? And what did you want to ask him on the stand?
I don't know if I can comment on that.
You don't have enough time for that.
I think that's probably better not said.
But were you surprised that he didn't?
The judge was.
I think it's always up to the defendant to make that decision. I think it's the hardest decision a defendant can make. And so I'm sure he put a lot of thought into it. We were prepared that if he did testify, we had a number of questions we wanted to have answered, but we understand it's his right not to.
So the question?
Yeah, over the past couple of years, a lot has been made of your office and the handling of different cases. Do you hope what happened here today restores some of that perceived lack of faith the public has?
I don't know one loss of a high visibility case determines what happens in our office. We handle cases all the way from the bottom to the top. We treat them all the same. There's no such thing as a single important case. This was a critical case, and you saw on display some of the smartest people and some of the toughest workers and investigators who have always been with me. So I think that sometimes you don't like what a jury has to say, but that's our system of justice. You present the case to a jury, and you have to abide by, at least I do. I took a constitutional oath. So I would just say today, I clearly are much happier with the outcome today, and I'm very happy with the work that was done by the professionals who work both in law enforcement and the district attorney's office, and really, I couldn't be happier. So
A lot has been obviously over the last couple of years. We haven't really had a chance to hear from you.
Unlike my time on Beacon Hill, I get to speak out, but many of you know that now as a district attorney, that if I speak out, that I interfere with an individual's right to a fair trial, then that obviously weighs heavily upon me. So I am now free to speak today on this trial with some limitations. And so not hearing from me, obviously, then I don't want to tip the jury or tip the scales and let those cases go forward without putting a thumb on the scales of justice. And, I took the job to speak for victims, and we focus on victims. And that's what I'm going to continue to do through my tenure. So I just want to thank you all. I know this is, a long period of time. We have to come to the courthouse, and we do have some calls to make and try to reach out to some other family members and some other people. But thank you all, and hopefully it brings to a conclusion a very sad chapter in the history of Anna's family.
Would you like to speak? Detective, this was your case from the beginning, right? Want to say?
All right, Michael Morrissey there. Of course, that low-key Karen Reed question there at the end. But this is a big win. Bottom line, they were meticulous, and to his point, the attorneys from the Commonwealth did an excellent job. One of the things, Lisa Bonner continues to be with us as we react to the guilty verdict, Brian Walshe. One of the things that they did well in the close, it was very subtle. It wasn't, bombastic. It was a delivery that was factual. And one of the questions they asked jurors to ask themselves was, those internet searches were over the top, but what about the internet searches that weren't done? How do people just die in their sleep? Is there a way? There was nothing inquisitive with Brian Walshe in terms of how his wife, according to him, just ended up dead. And I really thought that hit home.
Yeah, they did a really good job. There was a lot of circumstantial evidence here, and that is really why they had to be so meticulous in putting this case together, because jurors like bodies. They like certainty. They want to know how a victim died, right?
Yeah.
And without that, and with nobody, there's no evidence on how she died. And so you were asking the jury to infer a lot from this circumstantial evidence. So I thought the way that the trial lawyers went about this, the prosecutors went about this, was very meticulous, very methodical. I thought that they called the witnesses, they asked thoughtful questions. You did get a little bit lost, which is always the case when you're going through the evidence, the phone evidence, and trying to decide who said what. But you lose them, but it all comes to fruition in the end, right? You can see eventually the story that's being made. So I thought they did a very good job in their opening statement throughout, and the closing statement I thought the closing arguments were brilliant, I thought.
Yeah. Hey, and let's face it, the defense had a ridiculous theory,
right,
but a very good lawyer pushing it, and you know that theory came from Walshe himself, because no lawyer would have concocted that baby. That was...
Well, right. They had to come up with something, so
yeah,
there you go.
Right, but there's so many other scenarios you could have said.
Correct.
When she was having an affair, bottom line, he's a liar. He was before this, and now he is going to the state pen again. Wednesday will be the sentencing, and that will be the opportunity for victim impact statements to be delivered, whether in person or via email, what have you, because of course her family, extended family, is out of the country.